Cotton, Okame Kek.
Heyo guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto the Melt. As a child, Naruto is taken in by Sarutobi to be his chosen successor to the mantle of Hokage. He develops a bloodline long thought lost to the world and learns along the way that, though he may be hated for his demon, his will of fire will burn brightly. And let's see what changes will come to the Naruto verse. Before we start, don't forget to give a like and subscribe to this channel for more what ifs, and check the description for the creator of this great fanfic. So let us start.
Chapter 12. The first step to forgiveness, and here's chapter 12. Hope you enjoy this one. Still trying to flesh out the characters a bit more and keep the story going. Readers, reviewers, thank you. Let me go by 3 doors down. Chapter 12. Naruto huffed as he leaned back against the academy building and crossed his arms, his blue eyes latched onto Sasuke's onyx ones. He didn't want to be there at that moment. What do you want, Sasuke? I'm not in the mood for any of your insults today. The Uchiha stood up a bit straighter and steeled himself. He hated situations like these. Turning his head to the side slightly so Naruto couldn't see the expression on his face, he spoke with determination. That woman, the one who picked you up yesterday, she is your sensei, yes? Naruto squinted his eyes and shifted his back against the stone wall. What was the Uchiha digging at? Yeah, so. Sasuke closed his eyes and swallowed, looking like he had drank sour milk. He hated asking for help, it always left a bad taste in his mouth, ever since his brother refused to help him. He grit his teeth and opened his eyes slowly. I want her to teach me. You went up against a Chunin and were able to land decisive blows on him. I need that power, Uzumaki. I need to get stronger quickly. She has to teach me. Ask her to teach me. Naruto blinked slowly and uncrossed his arms. So, that's what this was all about. He looked up at the sky and sighed. This probably wouldn't go over well. Not my call. You want her to teach you, you go ask her. Anko-sensei doesn't do anything she doesn't want to do, never has, never will. But, if you want to be her new pincushion, then by all means, be my guest. If you're there, perhaps she won't cut me up so bad. The more Naruto mused on the situation in an amused manner, the more Sasuke's blood boiled. He hated being ignored, he hated being made fun of. Especially by someone he held as being beneath him. With a lunge forward, he grabbed Naruto by the collar and thrust him against the building, ending the boy's thoughts immediately. Don't patronize me. I need power now. I have to avenge my family. Their blood cries out from the soil. Naruto glared at the boy and shoved his arms away, turning his body so he presented less of a target in case the Uchiha decided to attack. I'm not playing around, Uzumaki. These little academy games, they aren't helping me at all. I need power to accomplish my goal. I'm going to kill him and revive my clan. Your sensei is strong, I can use her power to grow stronger. Naruto frowned and tensed, his fist balling up. See, that's the whole problem. You said the word, use. You can't use people, Sasuke. Not for that purpose. It's wrong. You're going about this the wrong way. Sasuke ground his teeth and pointed his finger in Naruto's face, not 2 inches from his nose, the heat of the moment fueling his anger. And that would you know. You don't know what it's like to be alone, to have no one. You still have parents. You still have a family. You have people who care about you. Naruto growled, a bestial growl that shook Sasuke, even in his anger, and jabbed his own finger in the Uchiha's face, his fangs on full display. And you would if you'd take that stick out of your ass. You have a village full of people who love you because you're the last Uchiha. You don't know what it's like to be hated for something you have no control over. You don't know what it's like to be called a demon. Sasuke lowered his finger and glowered at Naruto, who lowered his finger, and the two stood chest to chest, snarling. So, you won't ask your sensei to teach me. Ask her yourself. You want her to teach you so bad, go find her and ask her. I'm not your slave, Sasuke, and I'm not going to bow down to you like the rest of them. Sasuke turned his back, having been denied what he wanted for the first time in a long time. It was hard, and yet, refreshing at the same time. He might not have the help of the demons, sensei, but he'd find someone stronger. There was always someone stronger. Before he walked back around the corner, he turned and sneered at Naruto. I didn't actually think you'd help me. After all, why would a demon help the one who is set to destroy him? I'll avenge my family and then, I'll complete my father's wish. Without another word, Sasuke walked around the corner and back to his favorite spot in the schoolyard, his fangirls falling in behind him. Naruto emerged moments later and plodded back over to his friends, flopping down beside Hinata. He reached around behind him and plucked something minuscule off his back, turning it in his hands as all his friends watched. Narrowing his eyes, he held out the small bug to Shino. Next time you place one of your little friends on me, Shino, I'll squish it. And don't you tell anyone what was said, understood? Shino nodded and let the bug crawl into his sleeves. I apologize for my actions, Naruto. I simply thought it best to send one of my bugs in case Sasuke tried to be abrupt. I had the situation under control. Naruto turned to Hinata and frowned at the look on her face. She looked disappointed in him. You were watching with your Byakugan, weren't you? And reading lips, I suppose. Yes, I was. Some of those things you said to Sasuke-san were harsh and unlike you. Of course, that was no excuse for his actions either. Naruto sighed and put his hand to Hinata's ear, making her blush from the close contact. Hinata-chan, please, don't tell anyone anything you heard. I'll explain what all was said one day, since I trust you more than anyone. Just, don't ask me right now, okay? Hinata nodded and fought her blush down, as the boys all looked on with smirks. Kiba couldn't help himself. So, moving in on Hinata already, huh, Naruto? The blonde blushed and glared at his doggy friend. If you know what's good for you, you'll drop this right now. Kiba grinned and latched his arms around the necks of Shikamaru and Choji. Come on guys, it's time for a song. You know which one. TCH, I'm not singing that. Yeah, Naruto'll kill us. Kiba frowned and decided to sweeten the deal, whispering to them. Help me make fun of him and I'll buy you a puzzle book and a big bag of chips. TCH, troublesome, I'm in. Any flavor I want. Any flavor you want. Choji grinned and waited for Kiba to start. Naruto might hurt them in the end, but it was a free bag of chips. Kiba cinched his arm around their necks tighter and belted out the lyrics. Naruto and Hinata sitting in a tree, Shikamaru and Choji grinned and joined in. Kissing. You're all dead. Hinata and Shino watched in barely contained amusement as a vengeful Naruto chased the three laughing boys all around the schoolyard, barely missing them until Shikamaru caught him in his Kajimane jutsu and tried not to release it as the blonde was tickled mercilessly by Kiba and Choji. Shino scooted closer to Hinata, still staring at the ongoing shenanigans. You heard what was said as well. She nodded, giggling at Naruto's predicament. Yes, I read their lips. I can't believe that the Uchihas held such beliefs about Naruto-kun. Nor can I. He has given no indication that he has done anything demonic. The growl is somewhat disturbing, but I chalk that up to intimidation and using chakra to massage his throat muscles as he expels air. Quite a useful intimidation tactic. I believe we should keep an eye on Naruto's back from now on. Sasuke is not one to let a slight go lightly. Hinata nodded grimly and tried not to laugh as Shikamaru marched Naruto up in front of her, still caught in the Kajimane, and made him kneel down in front of her. Hinata was immediately wary, but with Naruto blocking her way, she couldn't move. Naruto was struggling to get out, but Shikamaru was holding him firm. He could practically feel the grin from the three boys on the back of his head. Kiba came around so he could see him and smirked. Now, Naruto, you know what the song said. We can't have you being a bad boyfriend to Hinata. The blonde growled and bore his teeth. Kiba, you better tell Shikamaru to let me go. Choji smacked on his chips and smiled, happy for once that Naruto was the one in a bind. Nah, I think you should, give Hinata a big old kiss, Naruto. The brunette girl and the blonde boy's eyes flew open and Naruto struggled harder. Damn it, Shikamaru, let me go. The lazy shadow user grinned and leaned in a little bit further. I don't think so. With a quick jolt forward, Naruto's lips impacted with Hinata's and the girl turned blood red before passing out with a small smile on her lips. Naruto was keeping his thoughts somewhere between marveling at how soft Hinata's lips were, and wholesale slaughter of his friends. He shook with fury and Shikamaru couldn't keep the jutsu up and contain his laughter at the same time. Naruto rounded on his three friends with a crazed look in his eye, his fangs glinting in the sunlight. You should run now. The three took off like bats out of hell, Naruto in hot pursuit. The blonde waited until they were gone and walked back over, sitting down beside Hinata. He sighed and shook the girl's shoulder. Hinata-chan, wake up. The small smile on her face grew as she mumbled. Tasty, like, dango. Naruto frowned and sat her upright, letting her lean against his shoulder. He turned to Shino, whose lips could easily be seen quirked up into a smile, even under his high collar. Not a word, Aburame. Wouldn't think of it, loverboy. Naruto growled and went back to trying to wake up Hinata before lunch was over. Jackass. Kurenai and Anko watched the shenanigans from the window, laughing heartily at the antics of the students. Once they saw that it was mostly over, Anko turned to Kurenai with a serious look on her face. So, you were there as well. Kurenai blinked in surprise. She was sure that her genjutsu had been foolproof. Yes, I was. I heard everything. So, are you going to teach him? Anko frowned and looked back out the window. Hell no. He's a selfish, whiny, manipulative little brat and I'm not sharing my knowledge so he can go and get himself killed by his brother. I'll stick to my current student. Who you've spent most of the time carving up. You know, I just had a thought. Anko smirked and turned around to face her friend. Oh really? Kurenai smiled and leaned against Haruka's desk. Revenge was sweet sometimes. I remember you saying that you thought Naruto was cute and worth your time. I didn't know you were into younger guys. Anko huffed angrily and held her hand up, ticking off fingers. 1. He's like, what, 10 years old? That's just wrong. 2. I'm not a pedophile. I'll leave that to him. 3. Well, who knows what he'll be like when he's older. I'll reserve judgment till then. Kurenai gaped at her snaky friend and plastered her hand over her face. Oh gods, you are staking a claim on him. Anko, you should be ashamed. Anko rolled her eyes and groaned. I'm not staking a claim. I'm just saying he won't be 10 forever. Who knows what could happen later. Sicko. You love me anyway. Kurenai sighed and looked at the clock. Look, I have to let the kids back in, so you need to disappear. Try not to bust any more windows when you pick Naruto up this evening. Anko pouted and slid the window open. Spoil sport. Months passed and there were no more incidents from Sasuke on Naruto's part. Anko, however, had been stopped by the boy on the way out of her favorite dango shop. She'd known he was tailing her, but had ignored it since she had no intention of teaching him anything. When he had stood in her way, she had put her hands on her hips and glared at him. What do you want, brat? Sasuke had given her a cold look and bowed before her. Anko was sure the boy's back was about to break from the strain. Uchihas didn't bow to those below their station. I humbly ask that you take me on as a student, so that I can learn to fight. Denied. Sasuke growled and looked up into Anko's unamused eyes. Why? Because you want power for the wrong reasons. I'm not helping a delusional brat get himself killed. People had begun to stop on the streets now and listen to the proceedings. Anko wasn't a popular figure in Konoha, but no one doubted her skill. What amazed them was that she was refusing to teach the last Uchiha. Most would give their right arms for the honor. Anko spun on her heel and began to walk off, when Sasuke yelled out. You think you know everything, huh? You don't know anything about my situation. Anko rounded on him immediately, calling on her Sene Jishu Jutsu and pinning the boy to the wall with snakes on either side of his head. Don't talk down to me, brat. I know more about betrayal than you'll know in a lifetime. Don't preach to me and don't presume that I'm one of your worshippers. You'll never be a student of mine, ever. Sasuke watched her go and seethed. Why was it that he seemed to be on the short end of the stick lately? Naruto had chuckled when she told him the story. He pitied the kid's situation, but he was going about it the wrong way. He couldn't stand that. His skill with his knife had grown by leaps and bounds to the point where he could sometimes catch Anko off guard. His training with Asuma had been a boon. Guy had run him into the ground, forcing him to new levels, and his speed and strength had improved greatly. Sarutobi had been busier than ever though, and hadn't had time to teach him much of anything else, so Naruto had taken to reading and trying things on his own. He'd learned a few but nothing powerful. His Kekkei Genkai had improved the most. His speed underground was almost as fast as his speed above ground, and after several experiments at the Hokage office, he had found that his chakra signature was completely hidden from the Sharingan and the Byakugan. It seemed he actually became the object he was in. He was completely hidden. Guy had found it to be almost like a game, trying to figure out where Naruto would pop up next in their spars. Asuma found it to be very troublesome, since his training involved sharp pointy things. Anko loved it, absolutely loved it. She'd swore that in his final academy year, she'd begin to teach him the skills of the assassin. Naruto couldn't wait. He'd begun to notice that Hinata acted strange around him ever since that kiss, and whenever he'd ask her what was wrong, she'd blush and say, nothing. As long as he kept at it though, eventually she'd stop blushing and be able to hold a conversation. By the next day though, she'd be back to looking like a cherry. He blamed his friends for her predicament and vowed to get them back. Naruto was now sitting at the top of the class, the top slot alternating between him and Sasuke. Naruto really didn't care one way or the other if he was number one, and decided he didn't want to encourage Sasuke to turn it into a competition. So, he did the only thing he could think of and slipped to number 2 in classwork. He didn't let the physical stuff slide though. That was his domain. He'd noticed a trend in the girls of his class as Kurenai began to mold them. Some were beginning to actually take their studies seriously, some had dropped out completely. Others were coming along more slowly, and the truly fanatical fangirls among them had made no progress whatsoever. Kurenai knew she couldn't really hold them back, but she had hoped her threat would carry a little more weight. Her lessons on being true kunoichi had broken through to one girl in particular however. This is why we find Yamanaka Ino approaching one Uzumaki Naruto as he prepared to walk outside for lunch one day. Yamanaka Ino had been popular her whole life. She had helped her friend Sakura with her confidence issues early on in life and had gained a friend. But, she'd also lost one in gaining Sakura, since none of the girls would play with her if she was friends with Naruto. She'd asked the boy that one day what he had done to make them angry, but he seemed to genuinely not know what the problem was. She'd told him if he was going to run off her new friends then she didn't want anything to do with him, and she'd stuck to that. Naruto had not pressed her either. But even Ino had to admit that the boy had been fun to hang around and play with. Shikamaru, Choji, and the rest had stuck by him and had suffered no ill effects. As the years went on, she began to think perhaps she had been too hasty in tossing him aside. She'd gone on over the years to obsess over Sasuke, as he was the coolest boy in school and being the most popular girl herself, she thought it was a perfect match. No matter how much she or any other girl tried though, they couldn't break through his cold exterior. No matter what they did, no matter how pretty they were, or how hard they trained, Sasuke would not be moved. He was a sympathetic figure and every girl fantasized about mending his broken heart. Once Naruto joined the class, Ino had been more preoccupied than ever with her thoughts. She'd even been arguing with Sakura less and less over Sasuke. Naruto hadn't once looked her way, and for some reason that bothered her. She knew she was a good-looking girl, and when she got older and started developing more she'd be a knockout. But the only girl Naruto interacted with was Hinata. She monopolized him, even if the other girls weren't interested. You don't monopolize a boy. She'd watched how Sasuke interacted with him and every time had become less and less impressed with the Uchiha's attitude. Not that she was giving up on Sasuke anytime soon. But, she was starting to see her fellow blonde in a new light. Then Kurenai-sensei had come along and turned her world upside down as to how a true kunoichi acted. Kurenai was beautiful, the envy of women and the object of desire for men, but she was all business. That was a true kunoichi, and Ino wanted that. Hell, even Naruto's weird sensei Anko was a hottie and everyone knew she killed for fun. After weighing her options and digging through her heart and soul, Ino had come to one inevitable conclusion. She had wronged Naruto when they were little and she needed to ask for forgiveness. She could only hope he'd accept. Naruto watched with interest as Ino approached him and remained seated. Hinata opted to stay as well, just in case. She couldn't explain it, but since that kiss, she'd felt strange around Naruto. If only she could put her finger on it. Ino gulped as she walked up, under the scrutinizing blue eyes of Uzumaki Naruto. She'd forgotten how you could get lost in them, like they went on forever. Shaking that thought from her head, she smiled shyly and waved. Ino-san, how can I help you? Ino's hand dropped to her side. That was a much cooler reception than she'd figured on, but then again, maybe she deserved it. She slipped her small smile back on and put her hands behind her back. Can I talk to you? Naruto sighed and turned to his brunette friend, taking notice of the unhappy look on her face. She didn't like it when he talked to other girls. Hinata-chan, go ahead and start eating. I won't be long. Hinata nodded and grabbed both of their lunches before starting down the steps, glaring at Ino as she went by. The platinum blonde girl cocked an eyebrow and watched Hinata walk out the door, turning around at the doorway to look at Naruto again. Surely the two weren't dating. Ino-san. Ino turned around again to find Naruto standing with his hands in his pockets, looking at her with disinterest. This was not going how she had planned. Naruto, what happened? Naruto gave her a funny look and took his hands out of his pockets. What do you mean? Ino tilted her head toward the floor and shuffled her feet. This wasn't going how she had planned at all. When we were little and I said that I wouldn't play with you if you ran off my new friends, why didn't you try to play with me? Ino, you're the one who pushed me away, not the other way around. You were the one who believed I was a bad person. Ino's eyes widened and she interjected quickly. I never thought you were a bad person. I just. Naruto narrowed his eyes and Ino cringed under their gaze. Those pools of blue were petrifying when they were trained on you in a malicious way. You just what? Didn't care that you hurt my feelings back then and in no way, shape, or form in the past few years have made any strides to mend anything. Why now Ino? Why talk to me now? Want to find out what Sasuke said to me? Or were you sent by him to beg on his behalf? Ino's eyes kept widening the more he went on and tears began to well up in her eyes. That's not it at all. I just wanted to apologize to you. Naruto ran a hand through his hair and sighed, looking at Hinata out the window. He wanted to be down there with his friends, not up here with Ino. Taking a deep breath, he exhaled slowly and locked eyes with the girl in front of him. If you want to apologize, prove to me that you are serious. Actually be friendly to me, and eventually I might consider you a friend. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm late to lunch with my friend. As he pushed past her, Ino grabbed his arm. Naruto slowly let his gaze rise from her hand to her face and gave her a questioning look. Are you and Hinata, dating? Naruto frowned and shook her hand loose. Not that it matters, but no, we're not. Maybe one day though. Good day, Ino-san. Without another word he was out the door and headed down the hall. Ino watched as he waved happily to Hinata and she smiled as she handed him his lunch. Ino sighed wistfully and put her hand to the glass. From her vantage point, she could see two opposite ends of the spectrum. Naruto and his warmth, laughing and joking with his friends. Sasuke and his cold demeanor, brooding and glaring at anyone and everyone that came near. Truly, the two were night and day. Ino just needed to find out whether she preferred sunrise or sunset. Hinata beamed at Naruto as he flopped down beside her and handed him his lunch. So, how'd it go Naruto-kun? Naruto fished the apple packed for him out of the bag and took a bite, leaving imprints where his fangs cut through. He chewed slowly and smiled at Hinata, swallowing before he spoke. Ino wanted to apologize for not being my friend all these years. He took another bite and stared ahead. Hinata looked at him expectantly and after several moments of nothing, began to get a little peeved. And, Naruto stared at her blankly for several moments before realization dawned on him and his mouth formed an, oh. Oh, I told her to act friendly if she wanted to be my friend. That was that, I think. Oh. She also wanted to know if we were going out. I told her no. Hinata's head sunk a little, but she retained her smile. Oh, okay. Naruto grinned at her reaction. Messing with Hinata was fun. He'd never known her to be the jealous type. Maybe in a couple years he'd be willing to date her. Wasn't like he'd find another girl interested in him anyway. Hinata-chan, why do you sound so down? You're not jealous, are you? Hinata blushed and hunched down inside her jacket. The boy could be so embarrassing sometimes. I'm not jealous, I was just worried that she was being mean to you. Naruto nodded and dug into his sack again, pulling out a sandwich. Sure you were Hinata-chan. Hey, Naruto. Whatcha talking about? Naruto glared at his other friends, seated several feet away. He'd banished them from underneath his and Hinata's tree until he was willing to forgive them for the kiss, no matter how good it felt. He blushed slightly at the memory. You be quiet, Kiba. If it's important, I'll let you know. Ass. Flea-ridden mongrel. You take that back. I am not flea-ridden. Naruto grinned and it was visible, even from where Kiba sat. But you are a mongrel. He heard Hinata giggle and leaned back against the tree with his arms behind his head. Life was good. More months passed and it was now the next to last day of the school year. Naruto had been looking forward to and dreading this day, for good reason. It was the day he had to say goodbye to a mentor. Guy stood before his pupil with a solemn look on his face. He'd taught the boy for years and now that he was taking a genin team of his own, he wouldn't have time for Naruto. As sad as it was, their time together was over. Naruto-kun, I have to say that our years together as sensei and pupil have been memorable. I got to have a hand in a future Hokage's training, got to see an ancient Kekkei Genkei reborn, and have learned much while I taught you. It has been a most youthful run. Naruto smiled and nodded. He didn't trust his voice at the moment. He'd come far under Guy's tutelage and even though the man was weird, he would miss him. Guy noticed the wetness growing in the boy's eyes and decided to stem it before it got too bad. Come now, Naruto-kun, no tears. I'm not going away forever. This just marks the end of one facet of our relationship and the beginning of another. I look forward to the day we can have a match as fellow Konoha shinobi. By the time that happens, you will have learned more, become more experienced, become stronger, and we can have a truly youthful match. Naruto nodded and wiped at his eyes. Guy knelt down to his level and placed his hand on the boy's shoulder. My last request as your sensei, Naruto, is that you grant me one final spar, for old time's sake. My Goken versus your Caleripate. Let this be a precursor to our match in the future. Naruto smiled and settled into his favorite position while Guy leapt away and landed in his Goken stance. The two stared at each other for a while before Guy rushed forward, kicking at Naruto's head. Naruto ducked under the kick and pressed upward with his palm, gently knocking Guy's leg away. They weren't going all out, more like dancing with each other in a dance that had no set moves. They twirled and tumbled around each other, the dance becoming faster and faster, furiouser and furiouser until it could be called an all-out battle. The two ran back and forth across the field, throwing punches and kicks left and right. All blows were blocked and it would have been considered a true fight if not for one simple fact. Both of them had huge grins on their faces. Anko watched from the trees as the two maneuvered back and forth across the clearing. It was calming to watch them, the way they moved was perfect. Goken with its stiff, straightforward kicks and punches, Caleripate with its gradual increase of the power behind the blows and the fluid way that any and all attacks were avoided. She felt a weight land beside her and bowed her head when she recognized the white robes. Hokage-sama. Sarutobi smiled at Anko and turned his head back to watch the fight. They're quite a pair, aren't they? I wish Guy had waited to take a team, but he insisted on helping a certain boy that caught his eye. I had wanted for him to have Naruto on his team. Anko watched the two swing away and thought out her words carefully. Hokage-sama, I would still like to take the boy under my wing. He's the only one I've ever found worth teaching. Sarutobi watched the two in silence for a bit longer, listening to the wind whistle through the leaves of the tree. I'll consider it, Anko. It's been my wish for him to follow tradition and be on a team. I'd still like for that to happen. Sometimes traditions don't work, Hokage-sama. Sometimes, tradition must be broken so that new traditions can take hold. Sarutobi turned to the woman and chuckled, getting a raised eyebrow. He coughed into his hand and straightened himself out. It's nothing, Anko. I just find it hard to believe that something so philosophical came out of your mouth. Anko growled and turned to where Guy and Naruto were bowing to one another in reverence, their final act as student and teacher done. She smiled slightly and sighed. Don't expect it to happen too often. That boy just brings out the best in me, I guess, or the worst if you listen to him. A chuckle came from beside her and she smiled softly, something that rarely happened. Please consider my offer. I think it would be beneficial for all parties. Sarutobi nodded and leapt out of the tree, Anko following him as he began his trek back to the tower. He put his hands behind his back and turned to her. Anko, I want you to begin teaching him the ways of the assassin. Her grin was so bright it could have lit up a city block. The last year of the academy starts next chapter. Let me know what you think.
Thanks for listening. I hope you guys liked it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like for more what ifs and support the author. See you guys in the next video.